talking about food safety, there's several components that we need. So we talk about clean, separate, cook, and chill. These are our 4 fight back rules for fighting bacteria, okay? So these are important things for you guys to know and to pass along to others as well. One of the things that we talked about was clean. So we did some of that already today when we talked about washing our hands, and we even put gloves on. Remember I said that everything was clean that we put out on the tables as well that we used. And so we followed through with that clean part, right? So the next one is separate. So when we talk about separate, we need to separate all of our food items, especially things like produce. We want to keep separate from our raw meats, okay? So the reason why I bring this one up is because, hey, we go to the grocery store, we were just talking about that, right? So we're going through the aisles and we're getting some produce, we put those things in our cart, and we get the little bags, right, to put our grapes in, and bananas, things like that, right? We get those little plastic clear bags. Well, then we go over to the meat area, and then we get, you know, some steak or some chicken or something like that. Well, they have those plastic bags there as well. And if you don't see any over by your meat counter, steal some from the produce area, because those are really great things to use. And I separate them in the bags. So even with meats, I separate those. I don't put the chicken with the hamburger in the same bag. I put separate baggies for each of those. And I put them in the bottom of my cart, like in the way bottom, the meats. Because if those leak, I don't want it to leak on my fresh produce, right? Now the incentive that I'm giving you guys today, everybody gets to go home with one of my grocery tote bags that are out here on the table. I use those when I go to the grocery store. I don't put my meat in those either. That goes in a separate plastic bag. That's the only thing I have plastic. Those little baggies. And they asked me if they could put it in with the bag. No, it does not go in my tote bag, because if it leaks in that bag, then I have those raw juices in that bag, right? And I don't want that. So we have to separate it all the way through the process though. We separated it in our cart, we separated it in our bags, we get it home, we separate it in our refrigerator as well. So the meats are in the bottom, and then we have our fresh produce up higher in the refrigerator. All the way through to when we cook it. So we have separate cutting boards like what we just used on the table. Use separate ones for your meats from your produce. So we gotta keep that separated all the way through, okay? So that's our separate rule. Cook is in there as well. So we gotta make sure that those meats are cooked to the proper temperature, all right? We have this big, huge, scary, unsafe zone, okay, when we're talking about food. So what I mean by that is we wanna keep the cold foods cold and the hot foods hot. So we have the cold temperature, which needs to be below 40 to stay cold. Well, we need to have it over 140 to be hot. So that scary safe zone is between 41 and 139. That's a big gap in there. So make sure that we cook our foods to the proper temperature. So at least 140 degrees for your foods, even when you're reheating them. Okay? The last one is chill. So we talked about that safe zone in the refrigerator being below 40, right? So 35 to 40 degrees in your refrigerator and below 0 in your freezer. That's what we're looking for, okay? You have 2 hours. We call it a 2-hour rule. We're talking about our cold staying cold and our hot staying hot, okay? So if you go to a picnic or something like that, make sure that you've got things put away within 2 hours, or at least have the hot things on some kind of hot plate, or crock pot, things like that. Those cold things on ice. So those are things to keep in mind. So even when we cook a meal, say we have dinner at 6 o'clock, we want to have that meal finished and put away. If you have leftovers, put it away by 8 o'clock, so within 2 hours. And keep that in mind. So this is something that you want to relay again to the people that you're working with as well, because maybe they don't know these rules, okay? But these are some basic things to help you and others in the community, hopefully, to stay safe.